Now, the cameras that we are going to be talking about can range from this, which was a setup we did when I was covering the World Series. You can see that's the Coke bottle at Candlestick Park that's behind me. These are magnificent pieces of equipment. They've got more gadgets in them, like here, this, what is called the demand controller, has more buttons on it than NASA. And you'll find every time you go to a different one of these, the buttons and the knobs may be a little bit different. So what we're talking about here is knowing what should be there. Then you get to this particular one and you have to look, oh, there it is, you know, that kind of thing. I'm still doing that every time I get a new camera. When I first saw this thing, I said, you know, that's weird. But we did manage to do it, and we gave them a pretty good game, I guess. Now, how do I do this in both hands here? Now we can go from that to this. And I literally have had to do this. We were doing a breakout room, and the guy came in, the union says you gotta hire cameramen if you're gonna have somebody take it. Okay. So they hired me, and then he gave me his home camera on his home tripod. Hope it never happens to you folks, but it can, and if it does, we work with it. We're professionals, and we'll figure out a way to make it do a professional job. One of the little tricks to making that do the professional job is the rubber band trick. What happens here is you put the rubber band on, you pull on the rubber band to make it do a smooth pan. Because as you pull on the rubber band, it'll gradually tension, and then start to move. So it makes a smooth start, and then you stop pulling, and it just sort of catches up and then comes to a stop. Instead of, okay? Okay, whether you have the big, gonzo camera, or you're working with somebody's home gear, the setup is basically the same. The same tricks that we use will work on both setups. Okay? Let's see what we get here. When we first get to the job, we have to ask them, where do they want the camera? Everybody says, oh, I'm going to start setting up my camera. Yeah, where? No. My philosophy is think twice, work once, if at all possible. Sometimes you have to think twice and work 3 times because the other guy doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know how many times they say, oh, I want the camera there, and you get it all set up. Oh, no, wait, maybe you should put it over here. It's like the lady making the furniture in the living room, right? Okay. Whatever it is, that's our job. Where do you want the camera? You ask your video head, or if there is no video head, the next up the chain, wherever you're working might be a room coordinator or something, who knows. But it's usually, in our case, will be centered at the back of the room. That's just the way it is. Front of house. Will you be recording audio in the camera? Sometimes you are, even on a general assembly. You might be the only camera in there on a general assembly. I've had that happen. And they'll tell you you're going to put a card in the camera, and this is just to document for archives. Okay, so you've got to get the audio in there somehow. So if you'll be, will you be recording audio in the camera, or is that somebody else's domain? Again, you're asking your video head or whatever. If they say you are, where's it going to come from? Are you supposed to use the mics on the camera? Very bad choice. Or is the audio person going to send you a feed? If he's going to send you a feed, is it going to be mono or stereo? And if it's mono or stereo, once you know that, what's the level going to be? Is it going to be mic level or line level? If you have one of these little cameras, then you got to make sure that it has the ability to accept both mic and line level. If not, let the audio guy know hey, it won't take a line level, you gotta give me a mic level. Usually, we prefer the line level because if there's any interference, your line level signal is up here, and the interference is still here. If you have a mic level, that might be here, and your interference is still here, so your noise level becomes more if you're trying to record off mic level. What kind of a camera platform will be, or camera support will be provided? Are we going to have the little toy tripod, or are we going to have, I guess we took them down. They're in these boxes here. You're going to be unpacking those boxes and learning how to put them together. Okay. So what kind of platform? Now, when we're talking about a platform, this is what we run into a lot of the time. There are a couple of elements that we want to have when we do any kind of a platform. The first thing we want to ask for is 2 separate supports. The one for the camera and the one for your body. The reason, when your body moves, the camera's going to move if they're both on the same platform. So we want to separate them. The one we run into most is a 4x4 platform like this. And then if you have this, maybe there are 2 4x4 platforms. More likely not nowadays, the front platform will be a spider pod. There we go. Spider pods, you'll have 2 of them here that we'll be assembling later. Spider pod, those of you who worked with me before, when we've had a spider pod, have probably heard this, but I hate spider pods. When I was writing for the magazine, I did an interview and I met the guy who invented the spider pod. It was intended to be used by news guys, where they had to go do a news conference. They would set up this thing real quick at the back of the crowd so they could get up over the heads of all the rest of the cameras. That was it. All of a sudden, the producers found them and they said, oh, if we put this out there, it costs less than having to build 4x4s every time. And we can, it's smaller, so we can get away from the fire marshal a little bit more. We don't block the aisle as much. What they don't realize, apparently, is there's no place to stand. If you have where is it? Can you see right by the steps over there? That little square thing, that's the platform they give you with a spider pod. Yeah. Try standing on that for 8 hours. Yeah. It's ridiculous. But anyway, that's Reisner on spider pod. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make sure we have some kind of a tall stool. You're going to be there all day, usually, maybe into the night. You don't want to be on a regular chair where you're looking up like this all day, and you end up with a sore neck. So you get a tall stool if you can. I personally, if you've seen me, I have built myself a director's chair. So it's up high. I've got pouches on both sides, so I can put my junk there. It's got a footrest. I can sit there with my arms on the chair arms. Makes it steadier. I like that. I can sit in that thing all day. And I put a little pad on the bottom too, because my butt is tender. And so is yours. Okay. We want to have, the reason for 2 platforms, of course, is to prevent vibration. But watch your house people. When the house people come, they are trained to make all these platforms nice and tight. Most of the guys now, I don't know his name, I wish I did. We've got one house guy over at the convention center who is really good. I think he's Chinese because he wears like a queue all the time. But he knows, and he'll go and correct his people. Leave about a finger in between so that the vibration doesn't transfer. Okay? But okay, we get that. We're happy with our little finger. Oh, you don't want more than a finger, because if you get more than a finger, you get a foot. which means your foot goes down the hole, and you don't want that to happen. So we don't want any more than that. But we also have to be careful here when we put the drape around, because what they'll do is they'll take that drape and stretch it real tight. What we want to do is take the edge of the drape and push it like that and do this. I call that a dimple. I don't know what it's called, but that'll work, right? So that now if this vibrates or this vibrates, it doesn't transfer across. Good? Okay. A hat is very helpful for other things too. Just a little diversion here. You may have noticed I almost always wear a hat when I'm working. And that's not just to be cool or anything, but look up here. Everybody look at my hand, way up there. I don't know if I'm getting high enough. What's behind my hand? The lights in the ceiling. If you wear a hat like this with a brim, you're not looking into the lights in the ceiling. You're still looking up, but you see your viewfinder. Okay. Oh, let me share something too. You know, I used to do handy hints all the time. The other day I was up, I was taking a class. What did I do with my pen? There we go. And I usually have, I don't know where it is right now, but I usually have with me, because we're working in the dark up there, 9 times out of 10. You're under the balcony, like here. There's no light. You can't see what you're doing. So I have a headlight, right? Like most of you probably do. This instructor up there showed me a little thing. He said, I said, do you have a headlight? He says, oh no, I don't have a headlight. What he did, he had his hat on, and he took his little flashlight. Now, bear in mind, this is different than your flashlights probably. This is a AAA battery light with an LED lamp in it. So it's very light. But if you take it like this, with a little clip, let's see if I can make this happen the first time this time, and you do like that, bingo, headlight. Isn't that neat? Now I turn that on, and because this light is right in between my eyes, no shadows. You don't want people sitting on your front platform. That's it. Probably the only advantage of the spider pod is that nobody can sit on it. You can't stand on it, you can't sit on it. But if you have a square platform out there, people are going to come up and they're going to sit on it.
Yeah. Lean on it.
You can ask them not to. If you can get stanchions around it, that's a good idea. Also, it's a good idea just so they don't bump into it when they're walking by. Excuse me, the stanchions are nice. If you can't get that, chairs lined up with the chair part in. Otherwise, they'll sit on the chairs. Okay? Be sure you have some way to get safely up and down. In my case, I have to have a ladder next to it. I have to carry a ladder with me. But that chair right there, you can't see that. Where are we? Come on. There we go. This chair over here is there for that purpose, so I can get up and down. By the way, here's another thing. This isn't particularly for us, but if you're ever doing a breakout room or something like that, where you don't have to go through 6 layers to talk to the speaker. If they're planning on using a laser, and you're getting a feed directly, or the recording is getting a feed directly from their computer, if they use a laser on the screen, the people who watch the tape later don't know what they're talking about, because that indicator is not there. But what they can do is change the cursor on their computer for the fattest, biggest blob they can get. And then you just do this. Now that's being recorded. Okay? Even if we're trying to shoot a picture of the screen, the laser doesn't show up a whole lot. It's just, you can be helpful. And being helpful is part of the name of the game, so we get called back again. Okay, now we're going to talk about setting a tripod. First thing we want to do is we're going to extend the legs. We want to first, obviously, how high we want the camera to be, but okay. We're going to extend the bottom part of the leg first. And the reason we do that is because if we have to make adjustments, it's much easier to reach this than it is to reach that. Okay.
Yeah, you definitely
First thing I'm gonna do is, well, there we go. Okay. I don't know what height I want it, but it's gonna be right here, okay? Because I'm sitting down, I'm not gonna stand up. So I want the camera right here. Now, how do I make all the legs be the same length? This is a little trick. First thing you do is you put down one leg to the height you want it. Okay. This is hard to do sitting down, I'll tell you. Then you drop the other legs. Boom. Lock that on. Drop this one. Boom. Lock that on. All the legs are now the same length. If I had spread the legs first, then I'd be chasing my tail. Okay, next we're going to spread the legs as far as we can, given the confines of what we're putting it on. The more the legs are spread, the steadier the tripod will be. But we want to have it equal. This little gadget here, in case you're not familiar with it, the little humps in there are to provide for different spread of the legs. So if I do, I think I'm going to want to do this. Where are we here? That's minimum spread, just so I can do this. Now, if I had more room, I would let these go all the way out. I'm going to let the brace here go, the spreader. I'm going to lock it in just so I don't end up with too much stuff here. Finger tight, please, not with a wrench. Okay, so now that is equal. Take advantage of what you got, right? Make it easy. Next step would be to level the head. Can anybody tell me why we level the head?
Camera's level.
The horizon will tilt as you pan, is the answer, yes. You're getting there. But if your tripod isn't level, as you pan left to right, the horizon will tilt on you. And that's not good, especially if you're doing sports or something like that. So now, whoever put this away didn't do it right. When you put these away, according to the manufacturer, both of these, you all know about the drags, I hope. Anybody doesn't know what the drags are? Okay. Both the drags should be at 0.
Really?
Yeah. The reason for that is if you pack the head away and it gets hit, boom. Now nothing's happening. If I did that same thing with some force and those were locked down, it could possibly burst the little diaphragm inside. What you're doing here is you're changing, in most cases, changing the size of a little hole in there that the fluid goes through. So that's how it smooths the motion of the pan and tilt. Okay. Now this particular one, which is a Sackler Video 18, which is not a bad head, has separate settings for the drag here and for the tilt here. I got it backwards. There we go. For the tilt here. Okay. I will normally start out with a setting of about 4 on both of them, just because that's in the middle of the range. And then I go from there as to what I need. But knowing how these settings work is going to give you a lot of help. You do have here, this is a spring that if you have a very heavy camera, let me rephrase this. If you have a lot of spring in there and you have a light camera, it'll boing back up on you when you tilt it. So you adjust this, that's what gives you just enough so when you put it there, it stays, okay? This particular one also has a payload for high or low for heavy or light cameras. Anybody have any other questions on the tripods? Okay. Pull this down. Can't do it at that angle. There we go. Pull this down, little button, and then pull it across, and this pops. Okay? That's the plate that attaches to the camera. Be careful when you're doing this, because it will snap and it will grab your finger. I found out the hard way. Front end goes in first, and back down, you heard that snap. It's just like a rat trap. It'll grab you. There we go. Okay. That's about it. If you're lucky enough to get wheels, I just follow through up here, sorry. Spread them as much as possible. Oh, when I'm setting up, normally what I want to do is point this toward the stage, one leg toward the stage. The other two legs are back here on the edge of my platform. As close to the edge as I can get, because I want the camera as close to me as I can get without my getting on that platform, right? Now here's a little trick. If it's still too far away for some reason, grab these two legs, be careful what you do, let that down a little, let this one down a little. Now it does lower the camera, so you may have to compensate for that. But now, you just go under here and you re-level the head. What's happened is the whole thing has moved back toward me a little bit. Can't do that a whole lot because you'll get back heavy. But, I mean, back heavy sort of tip over. Yeah. Normally, it's not going to be a problem. If you got a gonzo camera like the first one we had there, I would not try this. You know, but for light cameras like we're going to be using here, you can get away with it. And that's the name of the game. Make it easy for you. Have fun. Okay? But we want it as close to the edge as we can. And we're going to level the head. We talked about that before. On a lot of these, and I think this one has it, but I can't find where. I know it has it, because there it is. They'll have a little light that illuminates a bubble. 9 times out of 10, though, you'll find the battery for that is dead. On this particular one, I think this little tray here is where the battery, yes. There's a disc battery in there.
I have no idea.
I used to carry a bunch of those disc batteries, different sizes, because I wanted the light to work. I don't see where it is on here, but there's a button. Oh, you press right on the bubble. I don't know if you can see that. It's glowing now. I just pressed right on the bubble and it turned on. See, take full credit for all serendipitous occurrences, folks. Okay, that makes it a whole lot easier to see what you're doing. If not, add light or whatever. Any questions? Moving right along, okay? Good. That was a handy hint I had in the column. You know, get one of these little keychain lights. If you own your own stuff, you put it on there. Okay, enough of that. We'll put the handles on and the rear control. In most cases, when you look at these things, you want it with the flat side up, round side down. So that means this one goes on this side. Reason for that is, then this part, which you'll have to do here to make that work, sometimes this will get in the way.
Oh, the tabs, the locking, all that stuff, yeah.
So you that's right. This one's wrong. Okay. Anyway, when you're trying to keep away from having stuff sticking up, there are things like the balance slide that might not work, or this lever can get hit by those handles. So you want to make sure. The only other thing I'll say about the handles, I like to have it very close to me. and I'm sitting in my chair. But now I gotta make sure that when I pan, I'm not getting hit by the handle. So that's something you want to check beforehand. So you don't suddenly have the director say, give me a shot of the guy over there, and you go, oop, and that's it. Okay. As I said, a lot of this stuff may be very basic, but if we start at the same level, then everybody's got the same things. Next thing we're going to do is mount the belt pack. On a lot of the big box lenses, you'll find that your push-to-talk, they'll run the clearcom or whatever, the intercom, through the camera cable. Great. Because then on your handle, we'll find them later, there'll be a button that's pushed there to push to talk. You don't have to take your hands off. If you got to use a belt pack, what I tend to do is I'll put a piece of trick line right around here, hang it there, right in between the two legs. So that keeps it from moving around if I go to push the button. And basically, we shouldn't be talking. You know, we listen, we don't talk, unless somebody asks you a question. So, okay, we mount the belt pack. Oh, when you hang your headset, hang it here. Don't hang it on the handle on the back, because that throws your balance off. And never, I see guys do this, take that headset and put it on top of the camera. This drives everybody else on the system nuts because it introduces hum. All of a sudden, you get the buzz, you know, all that. Oh, who's got that? Okay. And, oh, balancing the camera. Now, this is where you adjust the camera forward and back by loosening this and sliding this. You adjust the weight balance of the camera. Ooh. This, I like this head all of a sudden, yeah. There's got a little space here where they have some spare screws. I have a little bottle that I carry with me. I have spare quarter 20 and the big screws, just because I've had these come out with no screws. And you get know how to do it. Okay. See, I'm discovering stuff too, and that's nice.
And sometimes you have a different.
I'm sorry?
You have a different pattern at the bottom of the camera where it can take 2 3/8 instead of the.
Yeah, you always want to have at least 2 screws in. More than that is superfluous in most cases. But you want 2, because if you only have 1, then the camera can swivel. And at least, you've got 2 points of contact. Okay. What was I about to do? Oh, balance for the shot. See, I get distracted here real easily. I'm having fun. When you balance a camera, you should have that camera balanced so perfectly that you take your hands off and it doesn't move. If it does, work on it some more. But balance it not so it's level necessarily, but so it's set for the shot you're going to do. Extreme example, we're on top of the press box at a football game, we're shooting down on the field. Up here, shooting down, yeah, it's the same thing, good idea. So your whole shot is going to be like that. That's where you want to balance the camera, so it stays like that. It's different for whatever you're doing. Normally what I'll do here, let's see, I think the next slide will show us. Yeah. We'll look down on the stage. What I'll do, I'll call up in the menu, if it's not already there, those are the only 2 things I want to see in the viewfinder most of the time. Occasionally, on a big lens, you can put the zoom or focus values up, they go up in the corners. But normally I wouldn't bother with that. Because I want it clear. My viewfinder is so I can compose a good picture. I don't need to know that, you know, whatever, They have so many things in there on some of them.
Yeah.
That, it clutters up the screen. Okay, so I put the center mark in, and I put the safe picture. The reason for that is, if I want somebody to have proper headroom, I can take the top of their head and put it right up against that white line. That's proper headroom, almost always. It's a good rule of thumb. Director may say he wants more or less, but that's a good place to start from. The center plus is a really good thing when you're tracking people or when you have somebody talking and they're not looking right at the camera. Put the X on their nose. If their nose is this way, okay, then you'll find that's in the center. Then you'll have the proper viewing, looking distance. Going the other way, same thing. You just follow their nose with the X, and you've got the proper proportional setup and proper looking. Somebody's walking, keep the X right on their nose, and they've got lots of space in front of them, not so much space behind them, which is what you want. Okay? Any questions on any of this I'm doing so far? Okay. Now we're back to balancing. What I like to do is I'll watch that stage there, and I'll see when somebody, stagehand, whoever, walks across. I make a very careful note of where their head is. And then I'll make a sight line from my camera through their head to something on the background. Whatever it may be, it might be the dip in the mountains there, who knows, anything, just so you have a spot. Now, I'll balance the camera pointed at that, with the X on that. Take my hands off. Watch what sees that, watch what happens to the X. Does it move? Got to rebalance, change a little bit. The X is moving up. Well, I need to put more weight on the front. Move the camera forward and this track a little bit. Just a bit. Then take my hands off. And I'll sit there for a minute, 2 minutes, without touching the camera to see if it works. Okay? Canned air I do not like. Like I said, I use the squishy bulb. I don't like canned air because canned air isn't canned air. It's Freon or something like that that's in the can, and if you tip that can wrong, it'll squirt out Freon. It's extremely cold, and I have not seen this myself, but I've heard of an incident where a lens actually got cracked. On a hot day, they were going to blow off the dust, and it squirted Freon on the lens and cracked it. I know that's possible because I had that happen to my windshield on the car one time. I wanted to wash it, so I just took the hose and squirted it, and that was it. That was the end of that windshield. Okay? So I don't use canned air. Besides, you put canned air in your toolkit, and by the time you take it out, the can's empty. They leak. Another, oops, went too far. Okay. Compressor air can be good if you have a dedicated compressor that is a clean compressor. But if you just go and blow air on it, chances are, that's it, thank you. If you just blow air, chances are it's going to have oil in it, and that's not good for us. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. Sure. Okay, this is my cleaning kit. I have lens tissue. I have the, what they call it, microfiber cloth. This is, lens tissue is not Kleenex. And don't ever use your t-shirt. This is what I call a squishy bulb because I don't know what it is. But that will blow air and it blows the dust off. It's very good. You're never going to spit Freon. I do have another one. This is actually, I bought this in a camera store about 400 years ago. When you squeeze it like this, it blows air. But if you take the top off like that, there's a camel hair brush inside. And because the camel hair brush is in this thing, it keeps it pretty clean. You know. You don't usually want to blow off the lens because then you spit on the lens. That's always a possibility. There's some lens cleaning fluid in here too. You had experience spitting on lenses, I can tell. Like, see, he's over there going, Okay, put this back in here. The next step, when we put the lens on the camera, is we're going to back focus it. The reason you back focus goes back to the old film days. Okay, when you had a film camera, there was a SMPTE specification that said the distance from the film plane, where the film is, to the back of the lens will be this. And every camera in the world was the same. Okay? It complied to that SMPTE specification, Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, of which I am a fellow. Okay. Now we start having video cameras. Video cameras don't have a film plane. They have a tube that comes in and out and gets changed and moved and messed with. So now if you have a zoom lens, or you have any lens, the distance from the back of the lens to the film plane or the tube changes every time you put a new lens on or you put a new tube in. So, okay, we've got to somehow compensate for that so that we get back to the standard measurement. What do? We put a little screw on the back of the lens. By that I mean, when you unscrew it, it moves the lens. It's a track, for want of a better way to say it. So that as you turn that back focus, you're literally moving the lens in and out till you get to that optimal distance. Okay? Now, rise in your wisdom, for what it's worth. 10 years from now, I don't think there's going to be any back focusing on lenses. Why? Because we no longer have the tubes, we have chips. And the chips are welded in place. The chip doesn't move like the old tubes did. So if they ever get around to it, or maybe they have, I don't know, but they make a specification for that, then the distance from the chip to the back of the lens is going to be standard. We'll no longer need to keep adjusting. Now, you normally don't have to adjust a prime lens. Prime lens means one that doesn't zoom, okay? Because you just put it on there and you adjust the focus and you're there, okay? With a zoom lens, as you zoom, there are elements inside that lens that are moving back and forth, changing. So what can happen is the normal procedure would be you zoom in, you focus, and then you pull out and everything's sharp, right? It should track. That's what's called tracking. But ain't gonna happen because we've still got this flopping around back here. So what we do is we zoom in all the way, we focus with our front focus, which is the one back on the handle or the front ring on the camera, on the lens. And then you zoom all the way out and you focus again using the little ring on the back. Okay? And we'll show you where that is as soon as we start putting things. Okay, now this thing you're looking at up here that's driving you nuts is a back focus chart. You can, a lot of guys will say, oh, just put it up in the lights and make the lights sharp. Okay, that's one way to do it. But that is subjective. It depends on how good is your viewfinder, how good are your eyes to see that that is sharp, to determine that that is sharp. If the engineer is doing it backstage, does he have a supercritical monitor? If he has a sloppy monitor, you're still going to have sloppy lens. So what we do instead is we use this. It's called a back focus chart, as I said. What you do, as you roll through focus, you'll see the center becomes fuzzy, or the center is fuzzy. As you roll through focus, the center fuzz, that's called the circle of confusion, by the way. The circle of confusion becomes smaller and smaller. And then as you keep rolling the focus, it'll get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then all of a sudden it'll start getting bigger and bigger. It means you've gone through focus. Go back until it's small again, that's it. That's what you want. It's the smallest center of confusion, circle of confusion, I'm sorry. I knew I was saying it wrong and couldn't think of what the right word was. You want the smallest possible circle of confusion. The circle of confusion is actually the point at which your lens can no longer resolve the separate lines and they blur into one. Okay? Anybody have a problem with that? Everybody understand the principle? I always like to, maybe I yak on too much about some of these things, but I always try to show you not only how to work the camera, but how the camera works. So that if you run into a problem, you don't say, oh, now what do I do? Well, let's see, it's supposed to be doing this. I know it's supposed to be doing that. So maybe if I do this, I can fix that, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Those are the answers I want.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wanna know how it
That's when
works.
you're a camera operator, not just a guy who says, I could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Not careful. Oh, by the way, if any of you want one of these, talk to me in a minute. And what we'll do, this is my chart. I mean, I made this up. I have the PDF folder, and I will email it to anybody who wants it. So that's my email address. Very difficult. dick@reisner.com.